Welcome to What's in Store, the podcast that's all about the exciting world of retail. Whether you're a seasoned pro, a retail enthusiast, or just curious about what's happening in the industry, you're in the right place. In each episode, we dive into the latest trends, tackle the big challenges, and celebrate the breakthroughs shaping the future of retail. I'm your host, Sana Diari, co-founder of DTech.ai. If you're passionate about retail or just want to stay in the loop, join us on What's in Store, where we bring you the stories, tips, and trends that are shaping the way we shop and do business. Tune in and let's explore the future of retail. Thank you so much for joining us. We have Mark Clack, the CEO of Circle K, with us today to share some of his experience in the broader grocery retail space. With that, thank you so much for joining us, Mark.
Rafi Mushkila, you're very welcome.
I think we'd love to kick off with kind of better understanding your broader professional journey and kind of what brought you to your current role as CEO of Circle K.
Sure. So, as you can see, I'm a little bit older than you are. The hair's getting grayer and it keeps receding back. So, I've been in retail now for nearly 40 years, and across 20 countries, as well as multiple different retail formats. So I've been in convenience, supermarket, hypermarkets, department store, cash and carry, wholesale. So I've sort of seen all of the different formats around the world. And I've also been involved in the different business cycles based upon the STARS format. So I've been in startups, I've been in turnaround, I've been in realignment, and I've been in success sustaining. So, each one has its own peculiarities. Each country, each format, and each cycle stage, they do have their own different challenges. So for me, when I've looked at any next role, it's always been important to understand those challenges, what the potential future for the company is, and also where I can add value. Because if there's no value added that I can add, then it's almost a question of what's the point of me being there. I can take a salary, thank you very much, but actually I want to do something. Um, this was part of the reason why recently I started up my own podcast as well and YouTube channel called Retail 101 Online. So 40 years, I built up a lot of information in this brain of mine. And my wife has always been telling me, how do you get this information that we've built up out to other people? So this is why I decided to start that up. And it's basically a channel where I can share my knowledge of retail and management skills to a wider audience. Now, this brings me to sort of Circle K. And whilst we do have some stores currently operating in a couple of countries, in reality, we're in the startup phase. We're utilizing a format, the convenience store, that is growing worldwide as the post-pandemic world maintains its proximity shopping habit. So the opportunity across the GCC to professionalize the traditional Bacala or corner store is massive. And the offering from Circle K, including both company owned and franchise stores, is a really good vehicle for that.
Absolutely. And I think kind of touching on that, Circle K is a huge global brand and has such a strong presence in global markets. And so we'd love to kind of better understand how Circle K's journey has been in Saudi Arabia so far and how you're thinking about the long-term vision for Circle K, specifically in Saudi.
Yeah, so Circle K started a few years ago in KSA, and then recently we took over the reins of the UAE business as well. So we do have a number of stores across the main population centres in both countries right now. But there is a huge opportunity to grow the portfolio and much more quickly because the last few years the business has taken the opportunity to lay some foundations, and they've really been set quite well. So the brand itself is well known around the world for providing consumers with convenience. And that will actually continue to be at the center of the brand's evolution across across both Saudi and the UAE. However, the one element that I want to add to the stores is that we need to be part of the community that we are in, where we are. We open in a variety of different styles of locations. So we could be in a business center, we could be in a residential tower, or even a compound. We could be in a hospital or a university campus, or we're a friendly face on your travels whilst you stop for fuel. So the important thing here, though, is to recognize that we're not just company owned stores, because part of the vision is to also encourage local entrepreneurs to take on single or multi store sub franchises as well. And the key to that is about those people also being part of their local community. So it's not just about going into a faceless corporate business, a Circle K, but actually you go to the corner store and it's Ahmed, your mate, your friend, or your uncle or your brother, somebody that you've known for years, and they're running the local community store for you. So, one of the challenges from the board is to create a train to own style of sub franchise where we initially employ someone, we train them within the business, and then we encourage them to take the next step and actually own the business that we have trained them to manage.
Very cool. That's super cool. And I imagine that's very different than what kind of some of the other operators in the space are doing today. And so kind of touching a little bit more on that, we'd love to understand beyond localization, what differentiates the Circle K offering in the region?
Okay. I'm not going to discuss all of my super secret strategies. Yeah. Um, so unfortunately, some of those I need to keep secret. Um, but where we will be focusing is on three very specific customer shopping missions and then a side mission. So, it's a little bit mission possible rather than mission impossible. So it's also not necessarily about staying competitive per se, because this tends to suggest a price element to what we do. Convenience stores are not necessarily about price because, what we do is in the name. We're about being convenient. And what we do want to be is part of that community where we're located. It should be somewhere to relax, somewhere to take it easy, have a coffee and one of our iconic cookies with family, friends, neighbors, colleagues. It's a sort of home from home and a refuge of sorts. We just want to be that other place that people can go to and feel comfortable. We want to be there when our customers need us. And that's what being part of part of being a convenience store in a community is about. So the differentiation is we will solve those three missions, and the fourth submission, we will save you. So what do I mean by saving? I'll give you just an insight into the final secret strategy. Uh, when you look at a convenience store, you think about distress purchases and emergency purchases. So, at 9 o'clock at night, your child is playing with their remote control toy and the batteries fail. Where are you going to go? The convenience store. You're not going to schlep around a hypermarket or a supermarket and drive 3 miles, blah, blah, blah. It's too far to go. It's too messy. But your child still wants batteries. So you can go around the corner to the local Circle K and we will have the batteries that you need. The light bulb bursts, and your wife is not going to go upstairs while the light bulb is not working because it's all dark. So therefore, what do? You go around to Circle K. So this is that fourth mission, the side mission that we will say from those awkward moments when you have an emergency or you need a distress purchase.
Absolutely. And I think you touched on this a little bit, but I'd love to kind of dig a little bit deeper. One of the challenges with convenience chains is they're highly dispersed so that you can be there in that local community and be available when customers need you most, right? And so I think one of the interesting things that comes with that value proposition is significant supply chain challenges. And so I'd love to kind of dive a little bit deeper. Kind of with Circle K's rapid expansion in Saudi Arabia, how are you guys preparing your supply chain to be able to handle increased demand across various regions in such a large country?
Yeah, I mean, supply chain will be very important because, you've already alluded to it, that unlike the large supermarket and hypermarket chains, stocks are delivered directly to the store. They keep it in a storage area at the back door, and then they pull it out and they've got miles and miles of shelving to store all of the products on. So we need to look at things like hub and spoke methods of supplying the stores. So we may end up using one store as a hub where we get everything delivered to, and then we send it out from one particular store. By setting up this kind of supply chain, we can actually increase the efficiency. By also treating our suppliers as partners rather than just product delivery agents, this can also enhance the opportunities for them. So we have to be pretty smart about when customers need products, and where they will need them. Um, yeah, I mean, you know, we look at convenience as being convenience. Well, one of the things we focus on very strongly, and we've just been looking at it over the last few weeks here, is availability. And availability, it sounds so simple, but if you walk into the store and we have limited space in our stores, so therefore every single little bit of space on the shelf becomes important. And if we're out of stock of something, then the customer's going to notice it more than you would in a hypermarket. Now, again, I mean, I did a podcast about availability. It was my second podcast because availability is quite important in retail. Where I talk about, when customers come to a hypermarket or a supermarket and they find something out of stock, they generally have four different choices in terms of what they're going to do next. You can pack size switch, you can brand switch, you can completely category switch, or you buy nothing at all. In a convenience store, it's much more difficult to do that because if I've come in for Pepsi Cola and I've come in for my 330ml can of Pepsi Cola, that's what you've come into the convenience store for. Now, it's very difficult to pack size switch, to brand switch, to completely different product category switch when I just came in for my can of Pepsi. So availability becomes very, very important. And what we're doing is at the moment, we're looking at one particular dimension of availability, which is it on the shelf? That's the first point. We actually have another 12 different dimensions of availability measurement that we can look at to make sure that a customer actually gets the product actually when they need it and right when they need it. I'm not talking about just in time and all that kind of supply chain nonsense. I'm actually talking about the customer is there, the product is there in the right quantity that they need it in as well.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And I imagine that's quite difficult to scale. And so do you see kind of specific challenges when it comes to actually scaling that supply chain?
Um, yeah, part of it is working with the suppliers because again, in a country the size of Saudi, it's large.
Yeah.
Um, and then, you go to Riyadh nowadays and I mean, we've got 4 or 5 stores in Riyadh at the moment and we can barely visit 2 of them in the same day, when we go and visit because the traffic is so. So then it's a question of looking at how we supply them, with our suppliers, and how we move things around. So one of the examples, and again, I used to do this when I was a district manager back in the UK. If when I'm traveling store to store, before I go to the next store and leave the previous store, it's a quick phone call to that store to say, what are you out of stock of? Like, what's low? What's not on your shelf? And then speaking to the current store I'm in and say, okay, you've got too much of that, or I can move some of that stock to the next store. So we plug the gaps by using the internal supply chain that we already have. That's one way of doing it, and utilizing that. The other way then is just looking at the multitude of things we can look at from the availability perspective. And like I say, looking at the 12, 13 different dimensions. One of those dimensions, and I do like this acronym, and we love acronyms in retail, as you know.
Yeah.
So we have the out of stock acronym, but the next one we have is called POOS, which is potential out of stock. So how do we look at that and say, based upon the stock we've got at the moment and my normal sales pattern, this item will potentially become out of stock before my next order comes in. So we're predicting things rather than reacting. So previously in retail, we used to do a lot of reaction. Oh, it's out of stock. Quick, get the order into the supplier and then shout at the supplier, why have you not sent it into us yet? Whereas now we can actually start predicting that and saying, based upon what we've got, we are going to run out. So therefore I will place an order.
Absolutely. And I imagine a lot of this happens with technology, correct? And so
Yes.
touch a little bit on kind of some of the technologies you guys are using to make sure that you can scale the supply chain.
Yeah. So believe it or not, at the moment, we use our ERP system, and then we extract the data and put it into Excel because Excel is very, very powerful. And I think people don't really realize how powerful Excel can be in terms of producing this data and information. So again, another perspective on one of the dimensions, and this is more to manage how well people are ordering. So we can actually see if if a store manager has placed an order before or after the product went out of stock.
Mm.
So now we're tracking the efficiency of the ordering of the store manager to make sure he's actually using the system correctly. And this again is literally just with Excel and doing some push reports to people. Again, we can produce volumes and volumes and volumes and volumes of data. The difficult bit is getting the people to look at it and then do something with it. So what we
Absolutely.
try and do is actually only push the information to the store teams that they can actually use. Otherwise, I'm sending an 18 megabyte Excel file, which people will start diving into and spending hours looking at, but it doesn't mean anything. And a lot of people will send them an Excel file and people will say, yeah, I'll send you some analytics. No, you've just sent me a data file. Any analytics yet? What we're trying to do is send the information to the stores that they can actually do something with, rather than just sending them a whole big database of numbers.
Absolutely. I think that makes sense. And so kind of switching gears a little bit, but still talking a little bit about availability. I imagine, a lot of the products in Saudi are coming from the international supply chain. And so you touched on this a little bit from using your own internal supply chain, but I'd love to understand, how are you balancing both local sourcing with international supply chains to ensure product availability across all regions in Saudi?
Yeah. So again, this is about managing the assortment well and understanding what customers are looking. So there's different bits that you need to work on in terms of the assortment. Again, I said it earlier. We have limited space, so therefore every product makes a difference. And we're constantly looking at, okay, is that product actually selling through at the correct rate for that customer, for the customer base in that particular store location? So, we try not to, well, we don't at all, never mind try. We don't sell the space off to the highest bidder because it would be easier to do that. Again, retailers do sell space in their stores, but that's not what we're about, because what we want to do is put the product on the shelf that customers want to buy. I'm not a landlord. I'm not a shelf landlord. Yeah. Correct. I already rent my stores from somebody else, so I don't want to re-rent them to a product. So therefore we put products on the shelf that customers want to buy. At the same time, we're not Apple. We don't invent products for future customer need that the customer doesn't know they need yet. Yeah. Our customers need a Pepsi, so we
Right.
sell Pepsi. Yeah, we may tap into our global network to bring in Pepsi Vanilla for people to try. But the first mission of convenience is to fulfill what the customer needs right now. Not to fulfill a need that they might need. Customers don't go into a convenience store to browse. There's an element of browsing in a supermarket and a hypermarket because you've got all these, shiny new products with new names, come from here and come from there and come from everywhere. Whereas customers that come into us, they want a battery, and they don't want some strange name battery from the back end of some country nobody knows. What they want is a recognizable product. So they want a Duracell battery at a good price, and they want 4 of them, double A, and then they'll scan them and then they'll go.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
so to a certain extent, our job is easier from the perspective of assortment building, but more difficult in terms of availability and stock holding.
Absolutely. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And so, kind of jumping into assortment a little bit more, I'd love to know how you're planning on maintaining consistency in assortment across all these Circle K locations, especially in regions with differing customer preferences.
Yeah, I mean, this is where I get quite geeky, unfortunately, because assortment management and category management is a topic that I really do love. I mean, I said my own series. I did a double episode about how to build winning assortments, and over the years, I've trained a lot of category managers about this particular subject. What it comes down to is understanding your format type. And we have several different formats, such as business centers, educational, community, compound locations, and then the customer base within that location. And there's a sort of general rule of thumb that starts with defining the category roles. Is it destination, preferred, convenience, occasional? And then you move on to the overall assortment, whereby 65 to 75% is core to all stores. So every store needs a can of Coca-Cola 330 ml. Yeah. You then have about 15 to 25% that is based upon the format itself. And then the remaining 5-ish% is very hyper local to the store itself. So what we're trying to do is fulfill the main three customer shopping missions. And I can give an example of how we did that with one brand in when I was in the UAE. So, we had two stores, same brand, same format. So we had the Géant brand with that express format. So just under 1,000 square meters each. One was in an area of apartments. The other was in an area of apartments. One was in an area with apartments that were costing 3.5 million dirhams and above. The other was in an area of apartments with 700,000 and above. So again, two very different customer bases, same format, same brand. The assortments were different. So about 60 odd percent of the assortment was the same, because if you're in a 3.5 million apartment or a 700,000 apartment, you're still going to drink Pepsi Cola. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But in the 3.5 million apartment, in terms of the water brand, we sold a lot more Fiji as compared to the 700,000 apartments where we sold a lot more My Dubai in terms of water. So again, it's about understanding that customer and making sure that the right product for them is on the shelf at the right time.
Definitely. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And kind of on more of the information systems side, how do you adapt your inventory management systems to be able to meet the needs of larger and more diverse store networks, like you mentioned, across different customer needs and demographics?
Yeah, this again is making sure that the key players, the store managers and the category managers, they actually understand how the inventory systems work. I said earlier, we're a little bit older than a lot of you guys. When I was doing orders a long time ago, we were using punch cards to make orders to the system. And you probably don't even know what a punch card is. Yeah.
I do not. I have.
But yeah. So we need these guys to understand how the system works and then what elements are required to build it up. So elements such as an MOQ or an EOQ, is it a minimum order quantity or an economic order quantity? You have to look at delivery lead times, and delivery cycle days. Which day do we order and which day does the delivery land at our store? We need to look at things like minimum and maximum element. How much fits on the shelf as a minimum and a maximum? And then is that enough space to actually solve the customer's requirements on a given time period? So is it a day, a week, an hour, 3 hours? What is that time period? And then you've got all the different supply chain elements, such as central delivery, BBXD, so break bulk cross-docking, DSD, direct store delivery, and then 100 other acronyms that we love to use in retail. All of these need to be taken into account. What is really important, though, is having the flexibility within the system for local managers to adapt in the moment. So I'm a very big fan of devolving power down as far as possible and empowering local managers and local teams to be able to make decisions. So if it's raining, stop selling sunshades and sell umbrellas. Now, if I'm in a central office in Jeddah, I have no idea what the weather's like in Dammam at the moment. Yeah. So I need my store manager to understand what the weather is like and take that decision and do something to react to it. And as I've said a couple of times now, we can have all the AI we want to do these things for us. However, we need to rely on the HI so that they have a lot of influence too.
Absolutely. No, and I think that makes a lot of sense.
I'm starting to sound like a rodent here, but I'm really not. I love technology.
No. I think we're highly aligned in the sense that, technology has to be a tool for people to use to improve their overall, whether that's, the process flow, or comms or otherwise. Right. And I think kind of diving into a lot of what you're talking about relies on very, very effective, good, clean communication. And so I'd love to better understand how you're preparing to manage and maintain that effective communication across all of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, everybody says that communication is one of the most important elements in getting the message across to the teams, especially when some of them are working in more remote areas, within the regions ourselves. And this is something I suppose more unique to this region than anywhere else in the world. We have a lot of diversity within the stores with multiple different nationalities. I can have a Nepalese, a Bangladeshi, and a Malaysian in the same store. So that's something else that we have to deal with. However, what I've found in a number of businesses is that communication still only goes one way, from management to employees. Managers have mouths and employees have ears. We don't have both for some reason, which is really weird, really weird. Um, and WhatsApp, especially over the last few years, has become the tool of choice for a lot of businesses. But as a communication tool, I'm finding it overused and abused in a lot of places. WhatsApp has its uses, but there are new tools that are better engaged and better equipped for actually engaging the team, having that two-way communication as a process that enables and empowers people to challenge the status quo that then moves the business to the next level of performance and achievement. We've been talking to a couple of people, and like I say previously, in a previous business, we were using an employee engagement app from Axonify, it was a brilliant app because it allowed us to do a one-to-one, a one-to-many, a one-to-group, or one-to-all, and back again at the same time. It had a lot of gamification in there. It had a lot of ability to sort of speak to people directly, but allowed people to speak directly back to us as well. We need those sorts of things. Otherwise, as you get bigger, being able to communicate to people becomes important. Microsoft Teams, it's great. But then you've got to get people to press that button and put the face on the screen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you touched on this a little bit, but it's one thing to get them to click the button. I feel like it's another thing to get them to kind of align with the brand values, the level of performance that's required, and having them really be empowered to have that communication channel back with management as well. And so I'm curious kind of what leadership strategies you're using that enable your remote teams to do those things very effectively.
I do one of the strangest things. I talk to people. So that's my main strategy. So I actually visit stores. I mean, you can see I'm in an employee uniform because I'm an employee of the company. When I visit the stores, I try to speak to the employees on the floor to see what's happening and to see how we can improve things. Because in reality, as a CEO, I don't serve customers any. I'm not very good at it anyway, but I don't serve customers any. I don't speak to suppliers. I don't negotiate with suppliers any. So I see my job as making the employee's job easier to do, because the easier it is for the employees to do their job, the more time they can actually spend with customers doing the thing that they're supposed to do, which is serving customers. And as I go around the organization and speak to the team, I try and break the operation down to its simplest components. So three simple things. I'm a simple person, so I try to break it down into simple things. An example of this is if you look at the whole store, the three simple things are the back door, the middle of the store, and then the checkouts. Those are the three simple parts of the store. And then if I was to break down even just the middle of the store into the three simplest things, it is take the stuff from the store, put it onto a clean shelf with a price ticket. And that's the simplest format that we can use to explain to people what we need them to do. We're running a retail business. We're not building rocket ships. We're not Elon Musk. We're not doing that sort of thing. We're not inventing a new phone. We're basically trying to sell a can of beans to a customer. That's essentially what we're there for. So my view is always keep it very, very simple. And that means that their performance and alignment then becomes easier to manage.
Absolutely. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. I imagine, with simplicity being kind of a key element of the overall operation, I'm sure you definitely incorporated simplicity both into scaling your training and development initiatives as well. So I'd love to kind of understand how you guys are planning to do that.
No, again, the key for me is to always have one version of the truth. At the moment we have 33 stores out there, which means I could have 33 versions of the truth. I have then operations managers and district managers and category managers and blah, blah, blah. So, we could have, 100 versions of the truth, but in reality, we need one version of the truth. So I suppose one of the most exciting developments in recent years is that the old style CBT, the computer-based training, has moved to mobiles. And that means that the old computer screen on a desk actually can be moved to employees' own mobile devices, where they can book vacations, change their rota, book their days off, see the company SOPs and documents and messages. And additionally, this also allows for micro training bursts. So training, for example, it used to be a very costly exercise because if you had to gather 20 employees from different parts of the country or even the same city for a day of training, that's a lot of cost because people have got to travel. Then maybe they have to stay overnight. Then you've got 20 people in a room. There's a cost of all those 20 people. Then you've got the trainer. Then you've got it becomes expensive to do it. However, now we can train via an online communication gateway, such as Teams, or develop the micro training programs, such as a 5-minute video on how to clean a coffee machine. We can gamify the experience for employees and then track and trace who is actually doing what and then where the gaps may be. So because of the app that we were using from Exonify during the pandemic, the very first training program as a micro training program that we ran was how to communicate with customers whilst wearing a mask. And that was particularly useful because obviously everybody was in masks. So how do you communicate to a customer when you're wearing a mask? And that was a 5-minute training program that we ran through 300 or 400 people within 5 minutes.
Very cool. Very, very cool. I'd like to switch gears a little bit and kind of switch more towards kind of the expansion and the future outlook of Circle K. And so on that note, what are the key factors driving Circle K's decision to expand so rapidly in Saudi Arabia? And how do you see the broader market evolving in the next few years?
Okay, so Saudi in particular is an underserved market for quality convenience. And some have tried it in the past, that I'm not going to name or shame. Uh, but there has been a fundamental misunderstanding for those that have tried it into the past as to exactly what a convenience store is supposed to do for the customer. So the market itself is ready for this. Post-pandemic, people's habits have changed. The country itself is changing with more women coming into the marketplace with added mobility. And this means that people's lives have become busier and therefore they require even greater proximity and convenience to enable their busy lifestyles. And this is what we're all about. So, we're fulfilling a need that is becoming rapidly apparent right now. If you've got a young Saudi couple who have just got married and they are both working and they both have vehicles and they're on their way home, where should they stop? Stop at Circle K. You can pick up your snacks for the evening while you're watching a movie. You can pick up some beverages. You can pick up a coffee for the way as well. You can even pick up some heat to eat products that we're going to be introducing where you can get home, bung it in the microwave, bing, okay, you're now sorted for the evening. And that's what we're there for. And Saudi, with Vision 2030, it's an amazing place to be right now. And I think it's a privilege to be part of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely agreed. And so with that, especially on the Vision 2030 side, there's a lot of technology involved now in expanding general retail in Saudi. But as K grows, what role do you think technology will play in kind of scaling efficiencies while maintaining the operational excellence that you guys run?
It will play a huge role, and it will keep playing a greater role the bigger we grow. But again, I think my common theme through this is the technology should be the enabler rather than just taking over. So the best technology is technology you cannot see. So we needed to improve things like the efficiency of the supply chain, better availability for customers, maintain better employee shift patterns, um, send customers offers that are relevant to them in real time. Um, as humans, and I've said it before, as humans, we require human interactions. So our technology will be there, but so will the human touch as part of our efforts to drive community engagement and be part of that community along with our customers.
Yeah, that makes
Our
sense.
customers will tell us what technology they want.
Yeah.
As in a previous business, because we were very much based in compounds and community areas, um, I personally spent some time on the community Facebook pages. And yeah, I've just told you how old I am again because I still. um, but I personally spend time on those community Facebook pages, actually engaging with customers as well. Before we opened the store, we brought customers into the store whilst the store was being built, so they could actually get a feel and a taste of the store and be part of the development of the store as well. What sort of products do you want? What are you looking for? What sort of prices will you pay? And then these people become ambassadors to the stores. And again, I go back to that communication. It's stunning how many companies don't realize that actually having direct communication two-way with your customers will drive your business, because your customers are very good at telling you what they want. And they're happy to tell you, but people don't ask the question. To me, is that.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And kind of, we'd love to understand, you guys are having this rapid expansion, right? Every couple of days I see on your LinkedIn that there's a new store that's opening up.
Yeah.
It seems to be super exciting, but I imagine with that excitement, there are a lot of challenges that you guys are dealing with. And so kind of what are the biggest challenges you anticipate and how are you preparing to overcome them?
The first big challenge is finding the right location. So, there's thousands of locations out there. But not all of them work, and not all of them are in the right location. So that's a challenge. And, we have a team of people who are out there looking for locations for us. Then we've got to do all the work behind that. So, again, a usual rule of thumb that I've worked with in the past is if you look at 10 stores, you then might do the feasibility on half of those. And then you might get 3 of them to the board to tick, and say, yes, we're going to open them. So you can imagine that for every 1 or 3 stores, we've got to look at 10 stores. So if I need to open X hundred stores in the next few years, you can imagine how many locations we have to look at. And then, of course, the right people to operate the stores. And I'm not, again, I love human resources. I've got to say that. Yeah. Hello, human resources. You're lovely people. You keep my pay check coming in next month. But obviously human resources talk a lot about, they're unable to find the right talent in the marketplace because there's no talent in the marketplace. But again, whenever, I have these discussions with human resources people, our business is simple. We just make it very complex ourselves. And people are important. So what do we need to look at? We actually need to look at people who have a willingness to serve, because ultimately that's what we do. We serve customers. Skills and competencies can be trained. That's easy enough. We can show people how to make a very nice cup of coffee with a nice little heart in it. Put the last bit in. That's we can train anybody to do that. However, if you're not willing to do it, doesn't matter who you are. It's never going to happen. So we have to sort of reverse the way we look at things, because we tend to look at a CV and we say, okay, yeah, this person can, they've worked as a barista, they've worked in a retail store, they've done this, they must be okay. And then we meet them and we think, what is this? Where's your personality as a starter? You show me somebody who is willing, and I will take them first every day over somebody who is competent, and that is really where we need to look at those soft skills first rather than the hard skills, because the hard skills I can train. So, as we look around the marketplace and as we look around where we're hiring from, I would rather, employ somebody that smiles at me than who's grumpy with me.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And so I'd love to kind of jump into the final question, which is what excites you most about leading Circle K during this phase of rapid expansion in Saudi Arabia?
Um, this is going to sound a bit grandiose, yeah. um, but yeah, we as a business have an opportunity to actually make a huge play in the Saudi and GCC markets and on the convenience industry itself. You know, how often do you get to influence a country and an industry at the same time? And we get to do it while Saudi is driving its huge growth as part of Vision 2030. You know, it's uh, if Saudi wasn't driving 2030, then we'd have to grow at a slower rate. But actually, Saudi is also helping us grow with what they're doing with that vision. So I'm sort of really looking forward to, we've just done year 94. So I'm looking forward to make it to year 100 in Saudi. And the question there is are we going to have 100 stores for the 100th anniversary or 20, 30 stores for 2030? And I know which one myself and the team are aiming.
That's super exciting. Well, with that, I'd like to just thank you so much for sharing all of your valuable insights with us on what's in store. I think this has been an incredible episode. And so, yeah, thank you again, Mr. Mark.
No worries. Thank you very much. Thanks, Salad.